Okay, folks, we need to have a little talk about what does pro-life mean and what does it not mean. And the reason that I bring this up is because I often see the term pro-life being misused, usually by the detractors of persons who are pro-life. And it gets tiresome to keep having to address their nonsensical retorts one after another. So I thought I'd just make a little short video to try and explain what pro life means and what it doesn't. So, the first thing to understand about pro life is that it is a legal position and not a personal position. And the reason I say this is because I remember once upon a time I had this very frustrating conversation with a Catholic gentleman who was trying to provide himself personal cover by saying, well, I'm personally pro life, but politically I'm pro choice. Okay, dispense with the personal nonsense because being pro life or being pro choice is a political position. It does not mean here's what you would do if you were in the situation of having an unintended pregnancy. It means what do you think the legality of abortion should be in the cases of unintended or otherwise unwanted pregnancies. If you yourself would never get an abortion, but you think that other people should have that legal option, you are pro choice. Don't even try and fudge it to say that you're pro life. You're not. Because to be pro life means that you do not want people to have that option. The second thing you need to know about pro life is the two areas that it encapsulates. Now, I've already brought up, of course, the case of abortion. There's one other area that I do think you can legitimately call yourself pro life about if you support the cause of life in that area, and that is the matter of euthanasia. Because the common thread between abortion and euthanasia is it's the murder of innocent human beings, and it's the in the case of euthanasia, it's an assisted suicide, but a suicide is a self-murder, and it's generally a self-murder not for anything that you personally have done, not that you have the authority to judge yourself and find yourself worthy of execution anyway. So it's suicide is murdering yourself. Assisting in that suicide is assisting in a self murder, and therefore, whether you want that to be legal or not legal, makes you pro choice or pro life in that regard. So the two main political areas with regard to pro life is abortion and euthanasia. And I would say that you generally do need to be on the life side of that equation for both of those to really call yourself consistently pro life. Now, here are a few areas where being pro life or pro choice has really no bearing on the political topic at hand. Number one, killing in self defense. Because that's not murder in the first place. If somebody is actually trying to kill you, then you have the legal right to protect yourself up to and including, or should have the legal right to protect yourself up to and including killing the person who is trying to kill you. And that, by the way, is one of the reasons why just about 100% of pro life legislation includes an exception for cases where the life of the mother is genuinely threatened by the life of the child. If the pregnancy continues and that would kill the mother, well, then yes, then the choice of the mother to terminate the pregnancy is absolutely on the table because now you've got one of those life versus life, someone's actually killing you situations. That doesn't apply to all pregnancies, though, although all pregnancies do have at least some possibility of turning into a fatal and life-threatening condition, but it's not until that turn happens that this condition would come into play and the abortion would be legalized in that instance. Just as, yeah, that person who's walking off in the distance could start coming running at you with a knife, but until he or she does, you can't just kill that person because you think that person might be a threat at some point. Okay, so legitimate self-defense, that's off the table. The death penalty is off the table. There is no contradiction between being pro-life and being pro-death penalty. And let me see if I can explain that by way of analogy. I would assume, especially if you're an American, that you are pro-liberty. You are generally in favor of people being able to do what they want, when they want, how they want, etc., etc. You're probably a pro-liberty person, and you don't want to see unnecessary laws put on people's behavior or unnecessary government constraints put on people's behavior. Now, does that mean that you would like to see all prisons done away with? Well, why not if you're pro-liberty? If you're pro-liberty, how can you support these prisons that take people's liberty away? They can't go where they want. They can't associate with whom they want. They can't eat or sleep or shower when they want. They can't do all the things that we in the outside world can do. It's their liberty is way constrained. And yet, nobody would say on that account, if you support our having a prison system, that you are therefore not pro-liberty. No, of course, no one would make that argument. And the reason why is because we all recognize that there are things called crimes that people can commit, and if they're serious enough, they are serious enough crimes to warrant the taking away of their liberty. That doesn't make you anti-liberty. It means that you care about liberty for those who haven't done with their liberty something horrible enough to have their liberty taken away. And the same thing goes for life. People who support the death penalty feel exactly the same way about life as you probably do about liberty. Innocent people have a right to life, but if you do something with your life heinous enough, you can have your life taken away. Therefore, it is not a contradiction to be pro-life and pro-death penalty, because on one hand, we're talking about innocent human beings. On the other hand, we're talking about guilty human beings. So don't get confused on the issue of capital punishment. Along the same lines, since we've already talked about justified self-defense and we've talked about capital punishment, let's talk about war. Whether or not a nation goes to war, and it should be understood that nations really should only go to war for national self-defense. That wasn't a sarcastic cough, by the way, that was a real cough. Nations should only be going to war for national self-defense, but in any case, war is a separate political situation with regard to the human lives involved. So you can be pro-war, believing that this war is necessary to protect the innocent people in your country from the aggressor nation, while still being pro-life on the side of innocent human beings. Here's another area that has nothing to do with pro-life versus pro-choice. Healthcare. What are the healthcare policies that we should have in this country? Should we have a capitalist system, or should we have a socialist system? Well, whichever you believe is the best for our country, if you believe in the other direction, thinking that's the best for our country, that has nothing to do with whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, even though there might be some cases where, okay, if we go with this healthcare system, it's not going to bankrupt us, but maybe more people are going to die. That's not the same as deliberately murdering them. That's not the same as taking innocent people who have nothing wrong with them, or who aren't already in the process of dying, and I'd accept in just the plain old existential sense that we're all dying, and killing them. Killing them because they're inconvenient, killing them because, maybe they just don't want their lives anymore, or killing them because we just don't want their lives anymore. That is a totally separate issue from healthcare policy in general that may have some impact on lives. And by extension, the same thing applies to any kind of policy, whether it's pandemic mask policy, whether you're going to church on the weekend or something, whether you're going skydiving. I mean, certainly skydiving, you're throwing yourself out of a perfectly good airplane for no reason. You can't really call that pro-life if you're meaning it in every sense of the word, because you're putting your life unnecessarily at risk. But that has nothing to do with the pro-life and pro-choice labels that we all understand. So, in short, let's be clear about what pro-life means and what pro-life doesn't mean. What pro-life means is that you are against legalizing the taking of innocent human lives. What does pro-life not mean? Pretty much everything else. I'm Mike Bartica. I hope this was a valuable summary and explanation for you, and hopefully, I'll be able to come up with maybe some more political tidbits in the future. But in the meantime, I think I will go ahead and sign off. Please subscribe to be notified when the next session comes out, and I will talk to you later.